Welcome back, campers. Today is day 4 of Discovery Camp. I can't believe how fast this week is going. I wonder what we're discovering today. I think we're discovering about animals. Wow, I love discovering about animals. So today we're gonna learn about bees. Kitty's going to be doing a video for us about the importance of bees and how we can help keep bees in our environment and in our backyards. And we're also going to be going on an animal scavenger hunt, and I want you to go on an animal scavenger hunt too. We're also, let's see what's in our bag today. We're also going to be painting some birdhouses so we can hang them up in our backyards. They have a nice little string attached. And we have some animal face masks that we can make and wear. Ta-da!
Scano everyone, welcome to a little bit of a talk about bees today. So it's sort of the middle of the day. We aren't going to really bother them too much, but this is the hives that they live in. And one hive they store honey in, one they all live in. I'm going to take the lid off of one. I'll step back. I've taken my mask off because it's easier for you to hear me, and our camera person is staying back. So once I take the top off, I'll step back, the camera will move in, you'll see the bees in the hive. We aren't going to spend a lot of time with them, but I have lots of really fun things to tell you. Okay, so I will take the top off. We use these bricks to weight them just in case, because raccoons and possums, they like to dig in hives. So, squish you there, little bee. I'm just going to put my glasses on so I can see them really good. So they kind of try to stick the tops down. There's lots of bees. This is kind of cool. So I don't know if you can see them crawling all over there, doing their thing. And then here, they're not happy with me. I should have bee equipment on, but all of the years that I've done bees, I've never worn equipment. And usually right now with the top off, I would be singing. So each of those is where they build up their wax and they put their honey, and that's the beeswax that we're always talking about with the bees. So you won't see the queen, she'll be down inside. They'll be keeping her nice and cool with their wings, but they're busy, always busy. The bees are always busy. So I'm gonna put the top back on, and then we'll go find a nice quiet spot to sit and talk about them. Thanks for checking out my friends. Okay, so Scano, welcome back. Thanks for taking a look at my friends. Like I said, they don't love us to do that, but they were really nice today. And I don't recommend that you do bees like that. If you're gonna look at a beehive and you're just starting out, then I recommend you wear the equipment. I've been doing it a long time, so I don't, and they're used to me. Bees get used to a beekeeper. They get used to how you smell and the sounds you make and what your voice sounds like. So they're really smart, and my bees are used to me. So, but if you're going to do it with someone who's done it before, or if you've done it before, it's best to wear equipment, a net or a suit. Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about bees because, first of all, bees are honeybees in particular are one of our biggest pollinators. People think there's like honeybees and some other kind of bee, but there's about 200,000 different kinds. Over in Europe, they did an inventory. They had 270 kinds of bees that did pollination, just that in itself. So there are bees, and they're not the only pollinators. I don't want you to think that they're the only ones out there doing the job. They do a big majority of it, but there's also other things too, like birds, insects, bats. Bats do lots of pollinating. People don't know that. So 1/3 of the food we consume is pollinated by bees. So if we didn't have the bees doing that, or the insects and bats and birds,
A third of our food would be gone. Oh, we really need the bees. So not all the bees are the same. With the 200,000 different kinds of pollinators that there are, 20,000 known species of bees that pollinate things. Honeybees themselves are, it's almost like domesticated. So honeybees are kept in hives like the ones you saw my friends in, and they have a beekeeper. There's a big strong connection between beekeepers and their bees. So honeybees are kept in hives, but they're the only bees we keep in an actual house or a building. The rest of the bees are wild. There are, for example, bumblebees. You've seen the big bumblebees. There's at least 25 different kinds of just bumblebees. The big furry fat guys that bumble around you. Those guys, there's 25 different kinds of them. And there are 220 at least. There used to be about 270, but we were losing some, of what they call a solitary bee. So a solitary bee is a bee who doesn't have a family that he lives with. He kind of lives by himself and goes out and gets his own food and does his own pollination and comes back. You can actually create homes for those solitary bees by creating a box and filling it with straws so it's packed tight, and they'll make a home in those straws. I've seen it done with hollow grass, plastic straws, but you put it in a box and they literally will live in there. Each bee will have his own little home in that box, and you can make it as big or as small as you want. But there's a few things that we can talk about with bees, families. So every honeybee hive has only one queen. She's in charge of everything. There's all the rest are, you're gonna love this, girl bees. There are some boy bees, but the boy bees themselves only have a little small job to do. Their job is to help the queen to make new babies. But they only stay in the hive for part of the season, and then they kick them out. Well, actually, sometimes they rip them apart and then kick them out, but they don't get to stay through the winter because they eat too much. They lay around and they get fed by the girls, and then when their job is done, off they go. They boot them out of the hive. You actually see them carrying them out of the hive, the bees. So it's kind of a cool thing, and all of the bees in the hive have a different job. Some are cleaners, so you see them carrying stuff out. If bees die, they clean those out and carry them out, carry them away. You'll see 3 or 4 bees carrying a bee body. Some are, their only job is to make wax. Some of them makes propolis, which is that stuff that glues the boxes shut. And there's lots of different jobs that the bees, the worker bees make, but the worker bees can't lay eggs. Only the queen can. That's the only one that lays eggs. She's considerably bigger than the rest. So that's her job. We could talk for days and days about the fun jobs that everyone has in the hive, making the honey. There's some bees in there, their only job is to feed the new babies when they're born, and they make this kind of stuff in their cheeks, and then they feed the baby bees. It's really amazing. But there are some things that I want to talk to you about, ways that you can help the bees, because unfortunately, with the way the world is right now, we're having trouble with our bees. Our bees are struggling to be a bee, literally. So there's a few things that are simple and easy to do. Number one, you can do is get to know what type of bees live near you. I told you there's lots of them, so you can figure it out. Just if you can borrow a phone with a camera or draw pictures, figure out how many of those bees you see in a day, and do that over a course of time. And you actually, that information is collected, and there's a really nice place at the Guelph University where they will take that information and use it, because scientists need to know what kind of bees live in different places. You can do the bee surveys, but you can also do things like, once you know what kind of bees there are and you're doing surveys, decide by what bees you want to attract to you by putting in a bee garden. It can be only a tiny patch about this big, but they like things that have lots of nectar and pollen. So the nectar is the part that contains the sugar for them, and the pollen holds the proteins and oils. So just like people, they have to have different kinds of things to eat. The nectar they kind of suck up with a proboscis thing, and the pollen they collect on their legs. They literally have cargo pants. their legs have big pockets, and they collect it and they stuff it in their pockets. If you see a bee and the back of him is all covered in yellow, that's pollen. They've collected it from a flower, and they have these big pockets like on your cargo shorts, and they stuff that full of pollen and they take it back so that they can use it when they're to feed everyone that's in the hive. So good choices for things to put into the ground for bushes or plants like lavender. They love lavender. They love pussy willows. They love, there's a bush called bee bush, and it's got these little tiny flowers on it. They like apple trees and crabapple trees and hawthorn, honeysuckle, a plant called bee balm, and sedum, which is kind of cactusy looking, but not really. In the spring, crocuses. But my favorite to do is to do an herb garden so that we can both eat, the bees and me. So I put marjoram, chives, sage, rosemary, oregano, things that we can use to make spaghetti sauce and Italian food and chicken and fish and salad dressings. All lots of things we can do with it. But bees also use it because there's lots of nectar and lots of pollen in those plants. How many of you love kale? Kale. They also like kale. They like strawberries. They like beans. They like comfrey. I could go on and on the things that they really, really like. So bees are perfectly adapted to pollinate by helping plants grow. They breed and they produce food. They do this by transferring the little pollen that I said they stuff in their pockets between flowering plants. So they land on one, pick up some pollen, go to the next one, pick up some more, stuff it in, and when they do, the pollen goes back and forth, so they move it. The job that bees do is important because without them, we would have a lower, this is going to sound sciencey, a lower availability of crops and wild plants that provide us with essential nutrients, micronutrients at that. That really means if we didn't have bees, there wouldn't be all the food we have. If we couldn't get our strawberry plants pollinated, no strawberries, because if they don't get pollinated, no fruit grows. So that's what that means. So it's really important because not having all the foods that we have means that we wouldn't have, as number one, the variety that we have, so the different things to eat, but also the nutrition that our bodies have grown accustomed to. If you want to know more about them, ask the folks that work at health services. There's some cool dietitians and folks over there that can help you with that. So the bees are the key to our very colorful and varied food diet that we have. So there's some things about bees that are cool that makes us go together. So bee spaces that are friendly are also friendly to humans. A healthy environment needs bees. Humans need a healthy environment. Bees are perfect pollinators. Humans are good people for eating food that's been pollinated by bees. If there's a drop in bee numbers, and that's been going on, we've been losing our bees, what that tells us that there's something wrong with our environment. Something's going on, and there's things that we can do about that. You can sign petitions. You can tell people to stop using chemicals. You can tell people that if a bee comes around you, don't squish it. Stand perfectly still and go like this. And when you do that, you calm down, and so does the bee. And he says, the bee's like, she's like, oh, I guess they're not going to try and hurt me, so I won't try and hurt them. Bees don't want to sting you. They really don't, because then their life is done. They have work to do, so they don't want to do that. So if you can calm yourself by taking deep breaths and holding your arms out in front of you very still, they will leave you alone. If you have questions about bees when you're watching this video, write your questions down or tell them to someone, and they can send the questions to me. One of the most important things that you need to remember is bees are important to us, and we as human beings are important to bees. Our job is to make the environment the best that it can be so the bees can be happy and healthy. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to ask. Have a great day. Happy bee watching. Bye.